football, and it's a Wednesday night, and it is huge each and every Wednesday night. This is our middle show and our milestone show, our landmark show of sorts. It is the original. It is Miami Hurricanes Live with Cam Underwood from State of the U. So please lock it in right here for the next hours. We talk Miami football. Get your family, your friends, and your social media acquaintances to do likewise. Cam, how you doing tonight?
I'm good. Often imitated, never duplicated. You know, the original out here in these streets. So, yeah, ready to just hang out with you guys for a little bit. Let me turn my microphone so it looks better on the screen. There we go. And, yeah, so, yeah, good Wednesday night. Let's go.
So typically, especially considering the first three games of the season, or the first two games of the season at that point, being a nationally televised game against Florida with all the hype, all the attention, and all the focus, and then an ACC game that proved to be a very competitive contest against a revamped and revitalized North Carolina program. I had much to say, much analysis, much thought, not compared to you, but much to say about the game, having consumed both games. But I got to say, Cam, Bethune-Cookman, even when I'm staying up at 2 o'clock in the morning trying to consume the entire college football day, and I'm looking at box scores and recaps of games that I didn't even get to sniff that day, but I want to know, hey, what happened with Minnesota and Illinois? I just couldn't go there. I just didn't get to the Bethune-Cookman effort that was, of course, 63-0. So not that you don't carry us each and every week, but especially this week in regards to what happened on Saturday that truly is meaningful going forward.
Yeah. I mean, we always knew it was going to be a blowout. I mean, no disrespect to Bethune-Cookman University, but in the terms of football, like, come on. Sorry, let me stop touching my computer so my screen doesn't shake. But, you know, you got to extend the rotations a little bit more. You got a lot of guys, their first action, a lot of true freshmen played. I think we had 12 who hit the field in the game. Jason Blissett, four-star defensive tackle recruit, he had a tackle for loss on his very first snap in college. Late in the fourth quarter against the Bethune offense. So that was good to see. Samuel Brooks, he flashed. I had pretty much shut down live tweeting the game so I could write the good, the bad, and the ugly and have it out as soon after the game as possible. And man, like I was just kind of half watching and I was like, whoa, wait, what? Who's, that? Like it took me out of my writing mode back into game conversation mode, just the way that he popped off the screen. So I think that, if he develops well, then, Sam Brooks can be a very good linebacker for us moving down into the future. Speaking of another linebacker, Avery Huff and Cameron Williams are both going to take academic red shirts this year. So they're not going to play. Even the 4 games and then red shirt thing, they're not playing at all this year. But both of those guys have a world of talent at their respective positions. Avery Huff is a linebacker. Cameron Williams is a defensive end. So that was the thing that came out. The offensive line looked a little bit better. That left side of the line is really coming together well. Zion Nelson next to Navon Donaldson at left tackle and left guard, respectively. Most of the long runs this year have been going left of center. So whether that's in, A, B, or C gaps there. So obviously Corey Gaynor is kind of in that as well, but he's the middle of that line. But that left side really doing well. You got to see some guys make some plays who otherwise, didn't really have a history of that. Like Mark Pope had almost 100 yards receiving, had over 100 yards total offense. D. Wiggins had a nice gain on a jet sweep kind of a thing where he almost scored. Mike Harley scored his first career touchdown as a junior from St. Thomas Aquinas. So that was awesome. Larry Hodges, who stepped up basically into the starting fullback role, he had 2 touchdowns, receiving. So he has 2 catches for 3 yards in his career, but both of them were for touchdowns. That happened last week. Jaron Williams started a little tentatively in his first home start, missed a couple guys. He missed a throw going to his left. He missed another throw going to his left a little bit on a kind of a half scramble, kind of pocket manipulation thing. And then on Mark Pope's bomb, he had a 54-yarder on play action. I love the fact that Mark Pope was out there in the Jeff Thomas spot where he, had the go route against, kind of like it was you slow play it for 2 steps and you burst by everybody on play action. But if Jaron Williams puts that ball in front of him, he scores. So, but he was open by 10 yards and then had to stop, and then he caught it and then tried to dance around a couple guys, but his momentum was done by that point. So even with the 54-yard pass, that was still not as crisp as you wanted to see when you're dialing up a shot. You want to see, that ball going. And again, Jaron Williams, he did warm up. He did hit a lot of throws. I think I still have the stats open because I leave them open every week. 19 for 24. So that's, almost 80% completions, I want to say. Because 20 out of 25 would be 80%. But 19 for 24 is 79.2% completions. So there's a lot to like there. But he did start a little bit slowly. To all the people who were saying what's up in the comments. So that was good to see. The defense forced 10 3-and-outs. Only got one turnover just because, Bethune did well to hold on to the ball. But, we just got them off the field so quickly that they didn't really have a chance to do anything exotic where the ball was really at risk. So there was only one turnover. It was a fumble right before the half. But the defense looked the way that you want it to look, basically, against a team of this caliber competition. Bethune-Cookman had, as I click back over, Bethune-Cookman had 137 yards of total offense, and 62 of them came on the last drive. So, there was that. The punting game looked strong. Lewis Headley was very good. Sam Brooks does not need to replace Shaq Quarterman. Brett Varner, stop it. Absolutely not.
A couple of people have said that after Brooks with 5 tackles, 1 sack, and 1 tackle for loss.
No, and maybe, okay, if you mean it as in replace him when he leaves, then okay, cool, fine. Like, he will replace him next year as inside linebacker at that position. Sure. But right now, no. So maybe you're correct. Maybe I overreacted.
That's how I took it as well. And that's what I was going to get to right away, because that's how I took that comment as well. The initial reaction you had. No,
absolutely not. No, Shaq Quarterman, he's the Daniel Gould, friend of mine, who contributes and does statistical analysis and things like that to a number of places. But he put up his stats today, and he said, or in there, I think Shaq Quarterman he's like top 4 of defensive snaps so far this year. No. Sam Brooks is going to be good down the line in the future as a developmental kind of a thing. Right now, today, in 2019, Shaq Quarterman, man, come on, bro. Come on. He's one of the captains of this team. He's a 4-year starter. He's, probably going to be first team All-ACC, maybe second team All-American, and everything like that. No. Like, no, miss me with that. So, there's that. The real thing for me from this game is the fact that Bubba Baxa missed another short field goal. And he's 4 for 8 on the year, 1 for 4 inside of 40 yards. Or inside of 30, I want to say. And I know that the angle is steep when you're on the hash mark, the closer that you go. But this is a problem. And I don't know how to fix it. And Manny Diaz was asked directly, does Bubba Baxa see a sports psychologist? He said yes. He was asked directly, what can you tell us? It was at one of the media availability sessions. I forget who asked it, but somebody said, what can you tell us today, right now, here? Technically, what is Bubba not doing that needs to improve? And Manny Diaz deflected that like a good coach should and said, some of those technical things we're going to leave behind closed doors in our building as we work on those. But whatever it is, it needs to get fixed. And one of our writers today actually put up a good piece. I didn't know that he was writing it because, again, I don't necessarily have to approve everything on State of the U, but he wondered if maybe Miami should look to a different kicker for shorter kicks and let Bubba Baxa take, the 35 and outs, which he's actually pretty good at. I mean, he hit 50 against North Carolina. You know what I mean? And there is another kicker there's multiple other kickers, but the preferred walk-on, the number 1 of the other kickers is Camden Price from Maryland, I want to say. So he's a talented guy. He came into the Bethune-Cookman game, Camden Price did, and he kicked 2 extra points. So Maybe, I mean, there is another option in there, and I don't want to run Bubba Backs off of the job. But if you're not doing the job, then, we need to evaluate somebody else to do the job. So I don't know. And other teams have done that before. Alabama did it before with a kicker for short field goals and then longer kicks. Alabama has also missed the most kicks in the 2000s of any team. So I saw somebody, or that stat came up this weekend. Somebody was like, "Hey, we're playing like Alabama now." Okay, yeah, maybe, but it is a thing that maybe we can evaluate. So the kicking game is really a thing that needs to get shored up, because there are three phases to the game: offense, defense, and special teams. And when you have decent returning, you have improved punting. The first punt of last game was 51 yards. And for a team where we were in the mid-low 30s last year in punting, that's a huge difference. So that's improvement. But and people last year are even citing Bubba Backs' freshman season, talking about, he had 9 out of 12. Yeah, but you remember when we stopped kicking field goals because we didn't think he could hit them? You know what I mean? I think the number would have been worse than that had we endeavored to have him try some more field goals. But instead of that, we were like, okay, we're going to go for it on this fourth down. We're going to play this opening possession as 4-down territory. So we're going to try to get half the yardage on third and have a fourth and manageable, because we're not necessarily sure about the kicking game. So yeah, he did hit 9 out of 12 as a freshman, but you need to take that context into consideration as well. So that is a little bit of a diatribe, but there were some things to glean from it. Getting guys game experience. Robert Burns had some nice runs. Robert Knowles, who's been much maligned and I have derided for his previous poor play, played pretty well and got his first turnover chain, because he's the guy who recovered the fumble near the end of the first half, when Gervin Hall, to call out another name, he sat there and he looked at it and tried to kind of reach. And I was like, and I typed it during the play. I said, "Gervin, get on the ground. Dive, celebrate the game. You need to go." The ball is literally, it's just bouncing around and you're looking at it. Get on the ground, bro. I know that everybody wants to scoop and score, but with all the bodies around in that scenario, a scoop and a score wasn't going to happen. But what could have happened? You could have had the turnover chain number 26 if you would have dove for that ball. And eventually, after it kicked around, Robert Knowles did that, and he got that. So that was good as well. So, obviously in a game like Bethune-Cookman, you're going to have way more positives than negatives. Another negative, and I know that we're going to transition into something else because I'm almost rambling here, but I still have good content for you, is the third down conversion percentage for Miami. Miami went on third down, they went 4 for 9, but they went 1 for their first 6 and then converted the last 3. So, the percentage did improve of third down conversion, but when it takes until the fourth quarter and against the second team of Bethune-Cookman's defense to go 3 for 3, to take that from 1 for 6 to 4 for 9, that's still not good enough. So the third down turnover or conversion rate needs to improve as well. But like I said, more positives than negatives. And the team, and the last thing. I used to do this when I was a teacher. I used to say last time, and then something else would pop into my head, or the performance wouldn't be there. But this is the really honest and true last thing. The team did escape the game almost injury-free. There were 2 incidents, however. Heading into the game, Lorenzo Lingard got dinged up in practice. It was rumored by some people to be a concussion type thing, but he was held out of the game. He wasn't even at the stadium, Lorenzo Lingard, for this game, but he's fully cleared as of today. So said Manny Diaz for this weekend moving forward. So hopefully we see number 1 getting some carries eventually. That's one thing. In the game, Mark Pope and Brevin Jordan both left the game with injuries. Brevin Jordan has returned to practice. Mark Pope has not. So, you obviously want to not have injuries be a factor, but I guess at some level they are. For me, with Mark Pope not having practiced yet this week and being a quote unquote game time decision, if I were the one making the decision, I would hold him out, because he's not practiced yet this week, which means he hasn't played or ran around since Saturday. Okay. We have a bye next week. And then October 5th, you have Virginia Tech for that key stretch of ACC games. Why risk it against Central Michigan? You push him so he gets a few snaps, but it's going to be in a rotation and probably not 100% anyway. If it were me, I would hold Mark Pope out and let these other guys who have returned to practice, Patrick Joyner and Nessa Silvera, both of them return today. Hopefully let them work into shape so that they're ready for October 5th as well.
It's always a huge Wednesday night here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, as we spotlight the Miami Hurricanes at 8 o'clock Eastern time with Cam Underwood from State of the U. As I try to organize my director skills at the same time as talking, and that's not always a successful combination. We're going to get to some of your comments and questions on the live stream as well. Want to let you know that the Amazon link is down in the description section below. There's a number of ways you can help us build the channel here. Like the videos, comment. Of course, you're doing that to both the videos and in the live chat. Of course, help us build the channel by, again, going to the Amazon link in the description section below. I know many of you get a jump on your Christmas shopping. Use the Amazon link in the description section below of any of the videos. You get my week 4 college football predictions at the Voice of College Football Community. That link is down below next to, of course, Voice of College Football Community. I'm 44-28 against the spread. If you know anything about what will work, 61+% will do that. And betnow.eu is a link that we have provided as well in a partnership with St. Jude's Hospital, ourselves, Volunteer Roadshow, and again, betnow.eu, where you use the promo code MRTVCFB, and you get 100%, double your money to lay some wagers on the football games. I got Cam Underwood, of course, from State of the U. And let's start with this one, Cam. As we look at Dan Enos' offense, Derek Lumsden is asking to basically characterize what you would call Dan Enos' approach to offensive football.
It's a pro style offense. It's a pro multiple, I would say. You want to run the ball more than pass it. I think that's been clear. Well, maybe not clear because we do have 93 passes in 3 games. But, I would say a multiple pro style offense. You definitely try to use leverage to your advantage. You try to create matchups and, let your players play one-on-one. But also, the pro style is building in those concepts that you will see at high-level programs at this level, and then also concepts from professional football as well. And the multiple is for alignment and personnel. We go under center, we go shotgun. Sometimes we even go pistol, wildcat, 5 wide to 3 tight ends, I form. There's just a variety of things. So. You have your staples, obviously, for formations and plays. I would say more pro style, especially if you're looking, and I think you can really see this clearly in the Florida game when we're talking about, hey, stop the hard play action where you go and then you turn your back to the defense. That kind of play, not the zone read where you're reading them like, no, but you fake it and turn your back to the defense. That's a staple of a pro style offense, because they do that, in the pros, and that takes a high caliber quarterback to process that, because you got to take a picture in your head and say, okay, this is where the defense is, and what we're trying to do, and what I think they're trying to do, and you turn your back away from it, and then you turn your head back around, and then you figure it out, and everything like that. So that's what I would say in terms of a Dan Enos offense.
As I mentioned from time to time during these streams, I apologize if I don't get your comment actually on the screen. If it passes, I can only go about 10 or 15 comments back. And one of those would include from our man, JT Sounds, who also always loves to dive into the recruiting. And he's asking Cam about Brian Balaam, who's the 70th rated safety in America, according to a 247 Sports composite out of Hollywood's Miramar High School.
Out of Miramar's Miramar High School, by the way, in the city of Miramar, the flagship school in the city of Miramar. My former employer, by the way, and my former student. 2 years ago, when my last year at Miramar, Brian was in my study hall class. He's an IB student. I actually taught him. I didn't teach him; it was study hall, but we did, collaborate on a couple of different things. And I had previously taught his brother years before him, so I know Brian personally. I know his family, great family, good people, and he's a good kid. like I said, and I know him personally, and this is my unbiased opinion. Well, no, the personal stuff, that's my biased opinion. I think that he's a good kid from a good family, all that kind of stuff. Athletically, the unbiased opinion is he can play. And he's maybe a little bit of a late bloomer, but if you look at the history of Miramar High School and the coaching staff that is and has been there, and the players on defense, especially in the secondary, who they have developed, that is, there is quality over the course of time. So, if you're looking at guys like a Morrell Jackson at safety who went to Hawaii, if you look at Tracy Howard, Josmar Diaz, he was an All-American at Valparaiso. I know it's not Division I, but another good quality football player. He was just maybe a little bit small. Henry Gray, who's, everybody's All-American, he was at Miramar for almost 2 years, and he played, a football season there, had a fall camp, had a spring camp before he left out. He's another kid who's going to be a high-level recruit. Chandler Jones, who previously went to Miami Central. Before he went there, he was at Miramar for 3 years. There's a history, especially in the secondary, of Miramar developing quality players with, good size, great technique, and the ability to play. I think that Brian Balaam is one of those guys. Is he the number one guy that you would want necessarily? Probably not. As a number 70th ranked overall safety in the country, I think that Miami should be shooting higher than that at the top of the position. And I think that they've done that. But I think that he could be a great program guy. He could be a great special teams guy. And maybe, as a, third or fourth year guy down the line, he could be in line for some rotation snaps on defense, and he could adjudicate himself very well on the field. So, there are other teams who are pursuing Brian Balaam. Obviously, West Virginia with Miramar's history to that school. The former coach, Damon Cogdill, went to West Virginia. So did Geno Smith. So did Stedman Bailey. So did Ivan McCartney. So did a couple other guys. Josh Taylor, who's now the coach at Carroll City. He went up there. Devontis Arnold, he was a preferred walk-on up there. I'm even forgetting some guys, but suffice it to say that plenty of guys from Miramar have gone to Morgantown. That was actually my very first piece as a blogger, was talking about the Miramar-Morgantown connection years ago. Anyways, so they're in on Brian Balaam. Louisville is in on Brian Balaam because he's that kind of fringe, first tier, second tier kind of South Florida kid that they look at, kind of like a Tutu Atwell, who if Tutu Atwell was 6'1", he'd have been everybody's All-American. He'd still be playing quarterback, but he's 5'7". But he's fast. So then you put him in, as a slot receiver and things like that. You let him make plays. So there are other teams in on Brian Balaam as well. And I think that it's going to go for a while. I know for a fact, personally, that Brian is a very methodical, cerebral person. So I think that he will not be swayed by the lights of recruiting. I don't think that he's going to just kind of make a knee-jerk reaction commitment. Knowing him, and having worked with him very closely, I was his mentor for his sophomore IB project. So we did work very closely on some things. He is a methodical person. He's going to go through his steps. He's going to go through his pros and cons, and obviously, pray about it, consult his family about it, and go where he really feels, a good fit. So I think the Miami is in a good place for him. I think that if Miami pushes strongly, that they could end up with him. But I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, just because of the nature of him making this process.
Nate 561, I couldn't have said it better. Smash that like button. This is the best commentary you'll hear when it comes to the Canes, and that's echoed a number of times every week on the live chat and by all of you that comment to the videos even after it posts. So this is just a sampling of the comments about Cam's analysis of Miami football, as we then post the video and get thousands of more views and a number of comments that come in, hundreds of comments throughout the week as a number of people. And got a comment. I appreciate the comment from, I believe it was Brett Varner in particular, who was all psyched up because he typically has to work, says he watches this every week, but has to watch the record, but he was able to watch live this week. And then he posted about 17 different comments to let us know that he's on live, and he's pumped up about that. Staying on the recruiting front, Cam, there was a comment made by Anthony Manzano, and if I can find it, I'll put it back on the screen. But it was asking you to contrast and compare the style and level of high school football played in South Florida versus what's played on the West Coast.
It's just more fierce down here in South Florida. It's faster. You just have better athletes everywhere. on the west coast of Florida, I mean, there's still athletes, in the west coast, in California, there's athletes. But I mean, man, you just look at every position in South Florida, and these guys are just, I mean, man, there's just athletes everywhere. You look at a Central Northwestern game, you look at a Miramar St. Thomas game, you look at Southridge, South Dade, you look at any of these guys or any of these teams, these games that'll happen on a weekly basis, and there is just so much talent. And I got indoctrinated into that when I came down to UM in 2000, and I was talking about the high school football that I knew coming from Michigan. And the pinnacle of Michigan high school football is Birmingham Brother Rice and Detroit Catholic Central. Brother Rice was 3 miles down the street from Cranbrook, where I went to school, and then both of my uncles went to Catholic Central. So of course they were talking about, CC this, CC that, and they would play annually in they had a league game, and they would usually meet in the state quarterfinals or semifinals, and one of them would always win states. And I'm like, oh yeah, Brother Rice Catholic Central, it can't get better than that. And one of my next door neighbors in college had gone to Miami Central, and he's like, nah, bro. And I'm like, no, it's not better than that. And I said, okay. And he said, we'll go to Traz one Friday night. I don't matter who's playing. It could be my school, it could be Central, it could be whoever. We'll go out one Friday night. I saw Jackson Norland, I want to say, at a time when Jackson and Norland was a regular ass average game. And I thought that they were on crack. They were moving so fast. I had never seen anything like that. The hits, everything. It was another level. And that was just some regular teams. That wasn't even superstar teams with superstar players. So I say all that to say the floor of South Florida high school football, I mean, there are some really, really bad teams. Yes, because you're going to kind of have the good talent come together and want to play together, just like at the college level, excuse me. But for the mid-tier and upper teams, they're so good. They would destroy the best teams from your area, your state, your whatever. With, I mean, some exceptions. That St. Francis team from Maryland that's basically IMG up in the DMV area, you're not going to beat them as an average team. The, Modern Day, the Centennial, the Pinnacle in Arizona, there are teams, there's some teams in Texas that are really, really, really good. So I'm not going to say the cream of the crop, but the average South Florida team, even in those conferences, would probably go 7-3. I mean, it is just a different caliber, and especially at these inner city, at these these neighborhood schools, these inner city situations where those kids are trying to get out and not go back, because I can't go back because my brother was a hood boy and he had beef with these other hood boys, so I'm trying to get this scholarship and get the F out of Dodge so that these other hood boys don't come and get me because of what my brother did. It's a different mentality, yo. It is. So if you haven't seen it, I would say anytime that it's on ESPNU or something, watch it. I would say if you have the ability to, if you're coming down for a Miami game, hit me up or hit somebody up, maybe South Florida High School Sports, my boy JT Wilcox. Just tweet anybody and say, yo, or you don't even need to know. If you're in town for a Miami game, find yourself at Traz Powell Stadium on a Thursday or Friday night. It costs $5 or $7. They got some good concessions where they bring in, the little vendors and everything. So bring another $20. Go do that. Go sit in the stands. Be sure what side you're on. Look and see what the color is, because you don't want to be rooting for the opposite team. I did that one time. I was rooting for Duke Johnson and Norland, but I was sitting on the Northwestern side because my buddy who I went with was a friend of the band director for Miami Northwestern, and I had one of the grandmas from the neighborhood. And so I'm cheering Duke Johnson as he was out the frame. Duke Johnson was an amazing high school player, and he's making all kinds of plays: kick return, punt return, pass, run, everything. I'm like, oh, and everybody's looking at me. So I'm taking my drink. I'm like, oh, this lemonade, good, whatever. And I did that 3 times. And the third time, this lady, she had to be in her 60s or 70s, grandma age, because it was years ago. So I'm in my mid-late 20s, and she said, young man, that's gonna be the last time you do that. I said, yes, ma'am. So you pay attention to your surroundings. But if you come down, just go watch anywhere. If you're way down south, go to Harrisfield. because that's where South Dade plays or Homestead High School plays. There's all kinds of places around. You go to the Mosquito Bowl in North Miami. You can go to Transpal. You can find a school up in Broward. St. Thomas is right over here. Cardinal Gibbons is over here. American Heritage. Hey, I don't work there anymore, so you're not going to hear me on the microphone, but Miramar, they got a good team. They got good games. MacArthur, there's plenty of teams around where you can go and see really good high school football. And even at an average game, the high school football is going to be of a higher caliber with higher caliber athletes than most other places.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, breaking down the game we love. And somebody is calling the call-in line. We are not taking any calls tonight.
Do it.
Did we take a call?
Man, do it. Just put the microphone
right,
or the thing.
Here.
I'm good with it. He's been asking for like a month straight, so why not?
The call will start at the beep.
Hey, it's Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line? Nothing.
And now
This
he goes silent.
is, this is about the fourth call, and it's got to be the same person. Okay. Anyway, if somebody knows the phone number here, and I haven't even posted it tonight, I got to think it's a fairly legitimate call here that somebody's calling in that knows the number. So I gave you your shot, but meanwhile, we've got Scott Kurtzman asking about Jonathan Garvin, and when I get, or the folks get specific with the questions, and then I relay them to you, Cam, I am certainly, despite your knowledge of Miami football, when somebody after 3 games, and especially since the last game wasn't the most important one by any stretch, and you're talking about a defensive lineman and how well they played in the first couple of games of the season, I'm going to be able to consider that to a certain extent. And we've got Cam, who dropped off for just a second, but here he is. And so what we've got, Cam, is we've got Austin Caines. Well, he's asking about Isaiah Walker. Let's get to that first, about the recruitment and pursuit of Isaiah Walker and whether Miami needs to move on from that.
I would not say move on, but it has clearly been past time to have other options available. Isaiah Walker Jr. said that Florida leads in his recruitment ever since the end of the summer, and then obviously there was that game in the opener, and ever since then I think that lead has been growing for Florida over Miami in terms of his recruitment. So I hate to say it, obviously he goes to high school around the corner from Hard Rock Stadium, like it's a literal walking distance. Hey man, hopefully something happens and we can turn things around, but other than that, yeah, I would say, not time to move on, because you got to continue to recruit guys who you're like engaged with and who are like giving you some kind of rhythm. Excuse me, you know what I mean? It's not like DJ Uiagalelei, the #1 quarterback in America who's committed to Clemson. We're not going to, we extended him an offer 2 years ago when he was a sophomore, but we're not pressing after him. Isaiah Walker Jr. is a guy who we're going to need to continue to recruit, but yeah, you need to start, being like a 5-star chef where you got multiple things on the stove at the same time. Because if one of them doesn't go right, hey, a couple of these other things we can work out. So that's kind of where we are with him. Like I said, I don't like it to be the case, but I think that it is the case. Yeah.
We'll take our call, Cam. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Mark, this is Navy Thomas 8, baby.
Navy Thomas, how are you?
I just love it when you got Cam on there.
We all do.
Nebraska and Miami goes back like
absolutely
back into the 80s
sure.
and the 70s.
1983.
So
January 1st of 84, if you want to be specific. Go right ahead.
I sent you the one comment that I wanted to go to Cam was, all right, Nebraska, since Tom Osborne, they went to Pelini, then we went to...
Well, you had a few in between there, but go ahead. Yeah,
then
sure.
we went to this Mike Callahan, or Mike Riley, and I'm watching what's going on, or what has been going on with Miami.
Okay.
And I don't know how many coaches they have been through, but okay, now they got this Manny Diaz.
Manny Diaz. Yep.
Yeah.
So
And I just want Cam to give me an answer as to whether is that going to solve it, or is just
So what you're seeing,
this third or fourth coach that he's going to have to go through before they get a decent coach?
So
and I just want to hear it online.
Yeah,
so
no worries. Good trend there that maybe after legendary coaches at both schools, they're just kind of running through guys.
Yeah, and that's a thing that happens in a lot of places. You know, you don't always replace a legend with a legend. You know, Florida State got very lucky with Jimbo Fisher winning them a national championship after Bobby Bowden, but obviously the end of that tenure did not go well, and the beginning of Willie Taggart's does not look to be going swimmingly either, but that makes me happy. Same thing with Florida following Steve Spurrier in his legendary career. Obviously, you know, there was a couple bad coaches. They got Urban Meyer, he did well, and then a couple other bad coaches and things like that. But in terms of Miami, yeah, you know, I think that there was just there has been a lot of continuity as the key component to some of these most of the coaching hires, I'll say. Larry Coker was on staff with Butch Davis. Then he took over and, you know, was on autopilot when won, you know, the best college team in the history of college football. To the 2001 Miami Hurricanes won the national championship. After him was Randy Shannon, who was on staff as defensive coordinator, and that was continuity from there. After that, we went outside to Al Golden. That didn't work. So then you go and you bring in somebody who had been doing the job at Georgia for 15 years, Mark Richt. He comes down. He's a little bit older, though, instead of, you know, he's not even as old as Larry Coker. I mean, he was old when he got the job, but that didn't work out. And then, yeah, you're on to Manny Diaz. Manny Diaz, he brings a young energy, and Miami's always been a 5-and-out program when it's good. You know, you're here for 5 years, you go, you probably win a national championship, and you leave out. The only one who really didn't do that was Butch Davis, because he left before the national championship to take his dream job, or a dream job, in the NFL. So do I think that Manny Diaz is the guy? I think that's yet to be seen, but I do like what he's doing. I do like the you know, the direction of the program. I think that there's some things on the performance that can be shored up, but you know, if I'm looking into my crystal ball, I think that, you know, moving forward in the next couple of years, Miami will continue to raise the quality of player on the roster, will continue to raise their level of play, and be in the conversation for an ACC championship against Clemson, which, you know, is they're the big bad bullies on the block, and you got to find a way to you know, clear that hurdle. So it will take a yeoman's effort to be able to do that, but hopefully, you know, under Manny Diaz's direction in the next couple of years, Miami can.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. This is what we do each and every Wednesday night, is talk Miami football at 8 o'clock Eastern time. So in addition to your own viewing pleasure, bring along your family, your friends that love college football. I mentioned college football specifically, not just Miami, because we've got a ton of other fan bases on the live chat, and we invite everyone who loves college football, get on social media and let people know that we're here every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock Eastern time. You can grab my week 4 college football predictions at the link Voice of College Football Community in the description section of any of the videos. And I'm looking for any other comments in regards to my football. Nikosi Perry's brought up as yes.
Yeah, I got a couple. I apologize. My web browser crashed earlier, but there was a question about Jonathan Garvin. Jonathan Garvin is a very, very good player. Jonathan Garvin is going to be a very, very good player. Jonathan Garvin is one of the foundations of Miami's defense. And yeah, I think that, you know, there are some teams, his statistics do not look the same this year as they had previously. I.e., the number of tackles is down. He only has 9 through 3 games. If we look at tackles for loss, he only has 1 tackle for loss, 2 hurries, no sacks. You know, so yeah, the numbers, the raw numbers are a little bit different. But that's, you know, when you don't have a Gerald Wills III and you don't have a Joe Jackson being schemed for as at the top of the chain of defense, where you're saying, okay, John Garvin is like our number 3 or 4 priority, so we're going to maybe let him do what he does. Instead of that, now you're number 1. And, you know, they're leaving backs into chip, they're leaving tight ends into chip. And a lot of times, you know, these games, you know, most of these teams have gone to a quick passing game. There have been very few times that they've really sat there and thrown deep, and it's unfortunately in those times he hasn't gotten there. But no, Jonathan Garvin, he still plays the run very well. He still is a very good pass rusher. He's still a guy who could be a 3 and done, after this season. So I know that the numbers aren't exactly what people might want, but he's still an integral part to the defense. So yeah, I mean, I fully expect him to be that. And 97 is going to make plays. So I'm not worried about it. People are saying that, N'Kosi Perry is the best player on the team. Why is he on the bench? I don't necessarily agree that he's the best player on the team. And I'm the captain of the N'Kosi Perry fan club. I'm the president, founder. Even when he came in as a backup last week, you saw that arm is different. Even from Jaron, and Jaron is way more accurate. Duh, we've seen that. Jaron has a strong enough arm to make all of the throws. Still underthrew that deep ball to Mark Pope, which if Kosi's in there, that's a touchdown. N'Kosi, he just, the ball, he just has velocity. He just has this arm talent, the strength of his arm that nobody else on this roster has. If he were the best player on the program, though, he would be starting. And Jaron Williams is completing like 78% of his passes across the first. Well, he's completing 60-something. He's like 66 out of 93 in the first few games. And if I do the math right quick, that's 71%. You are preaching literally to the choir here, and you're saying, oh, N'Kosi Perry is very good. I think that he is. And I think that, he can play, but I don't agree that he's the best player on the roster. Sorry.
Talking Miami football right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football each and every Wednesday night. Cam Underwood, State of the U. Please join him and the rest of the staff right there for Miami football talk. And I also want to let people know that I shot and posted a video this week in which I asked for anyone who would like to contribute to the Miami channel by posting post-game analysis. We're going to test you out, try you out. A number of you responded. I would say about 12 to 15 of you responded that you would like to help us out by posting a post-game video each and every week, although only one of you actually listened to what I said, which was send me an email at MarkRogersTV@gmail. MarkRogersTV@gmail. Send me an email and let me know that you're interested in contributing to our channel. What the rest of you did was comment in the comments section. So send an email to MarkRogersTV@gmail. And we will look over the candidates, and hopefully you will get the spot. I'd like to talk to Miami football.
Here's a tip, and I learned this from a couple of years ago in our writer recruitment for State of the U. Turn off the comments. So you don't even give them that other pathway to reach out to you. You just put it up there, boom, close comments. So they go, wait, then they go back, and then they'll actually so then it gets. So just a pro tip from me to you.
It's a good point. Good point there. CHUGMOBEER, we know what you're doing during the Miami games, but we appreciate the contribution to the channel so much. Mark and Cam, great show. Do you think Manny Diaz needs to tell Coach Baker to be more aggressive on defense like last year and Coach Enos to use the spread and our speed more?
No, I don't. I think that adjustments are still being made. I think that we're seeing that clearly. You saw it in the North Carolina game. You saw it in the Florida game. On both offense and defense. And there were some things about the field position in the Florida game that precluded Dan Enos from continuing to do what he was doing on that first drive with the, lateral spread, quick screen game, quick pass game, just starting just with such a negative field position. Some of those things change. So, sometimes you obviously have to play the position that you're given in the game. So, I think that Dan Enos is trying things to get the skill position players space. Obviously, like I said, Cam Davis has had 106 yards worth of run plays come off because of holding penalties. And that's only 2 plays, by the way. So 54 and 52. Those came off the board in the first 2 games because of holding. You got him space. You got him, but somebody on that play held each time. Okay. You scheme Mark Walton, my boy Roman, who I've known for a long time. He contributes to another Miami Hurricanes site, but he schemed him high school open where, it's not like a projection thing. You see him like this on the field open. You did that with Jeff Thomas in the opener. That sack on the first drive, if you go back and look at that play, Jeff Thomas had a triple move and he spun his defender around like a top, like a dreidel or something. And he's butt naked wide open for a touchdown, like doing backflips and cartwheels in the end zone. But, the offensive line couldn't block Florida. So we didn't have time to get the ball. So I think that we're doing things on offense to get guys the ball. And I think that we even saw against Bethune-Cookman some more of those things that we're doing. So I'm not really concerned about that. On defense, it looked between the first quarter and second quarter of the North Carolina game, it seemed on the outside like Manny Diaz took the sticks back and started calling the defense. And I don't know if that's what happened or if Blake Baker really just, changed it up. And I think that it is more Blake Baker because you saw Manny Diaz on the sideline and he's not actually signaling at a time when plays would get signaled in. But yeah, I don't necessarily see more aggressive as the thing. There's just some times when things didn't go right. You blitz a safety in a corner from the same side of the field. So you're coming with a exotic zone blitz. But Bandy and Gervin Hall, instead of going through the C gap and D gap, like splitting a guy like this, they go through the same gap. And one gets blocked and then he kind of trips up the other one. So like it's an execution error maybe a little bit there. Or, maybe you don't call that specific blitz. So I don't necessarily think that it's a time when we really need to do too much of that. I would say, let's let the season play out a little bit more and let these guys, these coaches coach. That's what we're paying them for. So let them go through that. Let them develop their style and things like that and kind of set their own foundation because, yeah, it is different. And look, the secondary is very different. And like you saw, they North Carolina schemed up a double move to go at Trajan Bandy. But then they put that on film. So when they tried to scheme that up against Wake Forest last week, what happened? Wake Forest is ready for it because it's already been, seen. So, is everything perfect? No. But I would say let these coaches coach and before we really go into the, changing too much up at this time.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. What do you think, Cam? We got somebody else calling in. Take another call here. Let's see what they got.
I mean, yeah, just maybe if they're a little quicker on the uptake, but sure.
Let's see what you got here. You're on the line.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, who's on the line?
It's George.
Hey, George, what do you got for us? Quick question.
Well, I would like to say out of the Florida State fans and the Miami fans that interface with you and the Florida fans, we are the only ones that didn't lie to you. We told you what was going to happen, and we eked it out, and we are undefeated, and now we got Tennessee, and then we got Towson, and then we got LSU or Auburn, and
don't care.
George,
great
George,
stuff.
George, I love you. Call another show. This is a Miami show. We were talking Miami football.
No, it's about Miami.
It has nothing to do with Miami. You're talking about a 3-0 football team, so you're talking about your team. George, call us again. I appreciate your comments. 5, 4, 3. Okay. George.
Go undefeated, Miami.
Great.
Yeah, we will try to win the rest of our games just like we try to win every game. And again, I called the Florida score to a T, 24-20. That was my prediction. So, I would have liked it to be otherwise, but whatever.
So where was I? Because we had one thing that was brought up in the previous show concerning the 2013 Florida State team, the 2001 Miami team, and I'll let you take it from there because
this is going to be very short. The 2001 Miami Hurricanes are the best team in the history of college football. I'm not having the discussion or debate with anybody about it ever again, period.
Brandon Smith has asked a number of times, so we want to honor his question because he's piped in a number of times concerning the recruitment of Javonte Royal.
Javonte Royal is a 6'3" defensive back from St. Thomas Aquinas. He was somewhere else before. I forget where. I feel like I saw him either like around Miramar, like walking in the hallways, or Miami Central, or I feel like I've seen him somewhere. Most of these kids transfer between schools like multiple times. So I thought that I've seen him at another school before. Anyway, he's a talented guy. He's committed to like Pittsburgh, I want to say right now. I don't think that he ends up there, especially if Miami pushes or another, larger Power 5 team pushes for him. He's, like I said, he's 6'3", long arms, good build, nice hips. He's a guy who can, I think that, Miami's looking for big cornerbacks and have been for years. Obviously, we missed out on so many of them. Pat Surtain, Patrick Peterson, back when he was Patrick Johnson at Ely. Tyson Campbell, Surtain II, his teammate Tyson Campbell, Tyreek Stevenson, all kinds of different guys. I would say, Miami's going to go after him. Try to get him in this class. And then, once you get him on the roster, try him out and see what happens. If he sticks at cornerback, then you have a 6'3" corner, able to go up against some of these gigantic receivers, the likes of which Clemson has a bunch. If you're thinking down the line towards ACC championship game or further. If not, then he moves inside. And look, that happens all the time. Sheldrick Redwine played corner for 2 years, and then he was like a half step slow, even at that time. And then for his junior and senior year, he was like, look, I'm going to go into safety, team with my lifetime teammate, Jaquan Johnson, because if you didn't know, they were born on the same day in the same hospital. They played Optimist, middle school, high school, and college together like crazy. He moved from corner to safety. So you could do that with Javonte Royal or, any other kind of guys. But, being that he's from St. Thomas Aquinas and committed to Pittsburgh, honestly, he's too good to go to Pittsburgh. We'll see what happens. But he's definitely on the board for Miami's, recruitment this year.
All right, folks, this is what we do each and every Wednesday night is talk Miami football. And as we get deep into the season in the ACC Coastal race with the Hokies and the Cavaliers in particular coming up after this Central Michigan game, it should get mighty good in terms of post-game analysis of what we just saw and then the pregame expectation and anticipation for the next week and what lies ahead. So lock it in right here. And again, bring on more folks than just yourself, social media acquaintances, family and friends that love college football. As of course, we're talking Miami, but we've got fan bases from all over the place in the live chat with 255 on the line. So lock it in right here. And I remind you that Cam is donating his time. So understand that the super chat is available for you to contribute to the channel and what we're doing here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, but specifically for our Miami content that comes your way each and every Wednesday night. All right, we got Beitu Perry right in line with you. That's going 44-13 with Miami defeating Florida State from those two particular national championship teams. What can we glean from Central Michigan coming up? This is a team that's had a rough go of it. They took on Wisconsin a couple weeks ago, 61-0. They beat one of the worst teams in the MAC, 45-24. So maybe that's actually a better indication in terms of maybe where they stand. But Central Michigan comes in. You can't. I got to think that Miami's going to be roughly a 25, 28-point favorite, somewhere in that range. And you're looking ahead toward, as you mentioned, two extremely important division games right after that to sharpen your skills on.
Almost. Miami opened as a 29-point favorite. It got as high as 31. It's settled at 30 right now. So almost 4.5 touchdown or just over 4 touchdown favorite. There's a bye week after Central Michigan, by the way. So next week there's no game. You get to, and that's why I was saying at the beginning, hold Mark Pope out or whomever you're maybe iffy on them playing and, aggravating an injury. Hold them out this week because you get a bye week. And then, the next time that we hit the field is October the 5th. So, you get an extra little time in there to get healed up. In general, you just want to see good execution. Central Michigan's starting quarterback, Quentin Dormady, who used to be at Tennessee, is out. So they've turned to their backup for the last game and everything. He got injured in the Wisconsin blowout, I want to say. You're looking at like a 4 or 5 touchdown margin of victory. Obviously, like even against Bethune-Cookman, it was only 7-0 after the first quarter. People were getting restless. But it was just a matter of time. You're trying not to get blown out. You're trying not to do things to really open yourselves up or open themselves up to Miami really just, gashing them. But you can only, hold back stem the tide for so long. I think it's going to be the same thing with Central Michigan. Wisconsin obviously is a team that runs the ball very well, but low key, Miami is as well. I don't think that DJ Dallas or Cam Davis is Jonathan Taylor. They're the Wisconsin running back, but they're really good. And so I would say, we're going to run the ball effectively. maybe reintroduce Brevin Jordan, who only had 1 catch against Bethune-Cookman, into the passing game. Jeff Thomas, I would say try to have him blow the top off the defense just to really get him going, because he's only averaging like 8 yards a catch this year. Only one of those catches was a jet screen or jet sweep pass, by the way. I saw somebody on Twitter saying, oh, that's the reason for. That's one play. And I will say that that's different, because I said that there were none of those plays. I was wrong. It's one jet screen pass to Jeff Thomas this year. It might have been others, but, hey, whatever. So, yeah, you want to see those things. And then you really want to see Miami not come out any more injured than they already are. You don't want to have any major injuries or anything like that. But, you want to see good performance by the defense. Hopefully they're able to step up, in the same kind of a way that they did against Bethune-Cookman. You want to see efficient and explosive passing game. You want to see the running game continue to grow. You want to see the offensive line continue to grow, and make some field goals, please.
Yeah, those field goals, they could come in handy
down the line.
They're not necessarily football players, but they sure decide a lot of football games, or just a couple that make a huge difference.
Hey, he's a football player. Bubba Baxo was a first-team all-district third baseman for 2 years, and in Texas, which is no small feat. So he's an athlete. Everybody wants to say, oh, whatever. Nah, like this kid's an athlete. So, it is what it is. But yeah, you definitely want to see the accuracy improve on his kicks. Just get another win, get to 500 heading into the second bye week of the year, and then just move forward.
All right. This is our show each and every Wednesday night. We appreciate you stopping by. We appreciate the contributions in so many different ways as we pushed past 260 at one point on the line. If you missed any of the conversation, all you have to do is wait for this video to process and post, which will take maybe 20 to 30 minutes, and you catch what you missed, the analysis of the first 3 games, and then, of course, looking ahead to Central Michigan and more so on down the line at a run at the ACC Coastal Division Championship with Cam Underwood from State of the U. And while you're doing that, obviously run over there on SB Nation. Again, stateoftheu.com for the best in Miami football coverage. So what you hear here and compliment Cam on a regular basis every Wednesday night, you'll get more of the same if you check out State of the U. We're talking Ohio State football in just a couple minutes. Cam, we appreciate you stopping by. And, of course, we'll do it all again, hopefully, Lord willing, next Wednesday night.
Exactly. So you guys know the drill. On all social, we're at the State of the U. That's Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. The website is stateoftheu.com. Please come fan with us, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Cam. Appreciate it, man. We will see you in a couple minutes with Ohio State football talk right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football.